The hour for convening having arrived, all members of the House will please report to the floor and take your seats. All members will report to the floor and take your seats. The clerk will ring the bell. All members will report to the floor and take your seats. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. What a beautiful day out there today, huh? Might just adjourn early here after we listen to our chaplain friend and go outside. Never should have brought that up. We're going to begin our day in a moment with scripture reading and prayer, but seems like every day the news from Eastern Europe just gets worse, and so once upon a time it was a war crime to kill civilians and children. Well, somebody needs to remind Vladimir Putin of that. And anybody that's caught at one of his, at some rally chanting, where they're chanting his name, then I think we ought to ship him over there to live in his Russia. Before I steal Brother Benny's thunder here, we will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 73rd House District, Representative Karen Mathiak, Chairman Mathiak.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. It's my pleasure today to get to introduce my pastor, Dr. Benny Tate. Representative Clint Crow was the one that actually invited him today, and his mom's funeral's today, and Pastor Tate will be preaching that funeral this afternoon, so I get to have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Benny Tate. Has served for over 30 years as a senior pastor at Rock Springs Church in Milner, Georgia. Under his leadership, the church has grown in attendance from 80 to more than 8,000 people. Rock Springs Church has multiple thriving campuses across Middle Georgia, as well as an online campus. The following ministries are part of Rock Springs Medical Clinic, which is incredible, Rock Springs Christian Academy, the Potter's House for Women, and Impact Street Ministry that cares for our homeless. Dr. Tate serves as the president to the Congregational Methodist denomination and has served many times as a chaplain in the United States Senate and the United States House of Representatives in Washington. Dr. Tate is the author of Defy the Odds. Everybody in here has received a copy of that. This book encourages all of us to believe that God can overcome the odds of any life. He is passionate about encouraging and supporting other leaders as well as ministries. His heart for developing leaders is a motivation for what he continually provides resources for growing churches. He enjoys teaching and encouraging others through his Leads Club podcast, connecting with others in his social media community, as well as teaching through Defy the Odds Growth for Churches. He and his great wife, Barbara, have been married for 37 years, and their daughter is Savannah Abigail, which I'm not going to tell you how old she is because I was embarrassed, and they currently reside in Forsyth County. Please welcome Pastor Benny Tate.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Miss Karen, after all that, I'm looking forward to hearing myself. Amen? Just out of curiosity, I've been coming here for 30 years. How many of you say, Pastor Benny, I've never heard you before? I've never heard you before. Never heard you before. Anybody? Anybody? Just a few of you. Well, I say to you few what Elizabeth Taylor said to her 8th husband. I'm not going to keep you long. Amen? All right. Listen, I do hope we can have some fun. I hope we can have some fun, and I will be brief. I understand your time is very valuable, and I appreciate the service and sacrifice that every one of you give to our wonderful state. I realize this is a sacrificial role, and I appreciate everything that you do. I just want to take a few moments, and I want to talk to you about the power of words. The power of words. The Bible says in Proverbs 18 and 21 that death and life is in the power of the tongue. That death and life is in the power of my tongue. The Bible says in Proverbs 13 and 2 that we eat the fruit of our words. That is, what we say is what we become. And then Proverbs 25 and 11 says, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and pictures of silver. The Bible says in Genesis 1 and 3, and God said, let there be light. Now think about this world that we live in. This world, the rocks, the rills, the hoes, the hills, the birds, the bees, the flowers, and the trees. This world that we get to live in was created by words. God spoke it into existence. So if our world is spoken into existence, words are so powerful. See, words created this world, and this is what I've learned. Words will create your world, and words will create somebody else's world. The words we say to ourselves are very powerful. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a devout sports fan. I love sports. I especially love football. Back when college football was going on, my wife got frustrated because I was watching so many games. And on one occasion, she looked at me and she said, Benny, do you love me more than football? I said, college or pro, amen? But I remember there was a pitcher. His name was Gaylord Perry. Anybody old enough to remember Gaylord other than me? Yes, some of you. Yes, speaker here, Ken. Gaylord Perry. Gaylord Perry in 1963 said these words. This is documented. He said, "Before I ever hit a home run, they will put a man on the moon. Before I ever hit a home run, they will put a man on the moon." This is documented. He said that in 1963. In July the 20th, 1969, we put a man on the moon. Documented. 2 hours later, Gaylord Perry hit the only home run of his career. Here's all I'm going to say. The words we say to ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, are so powerful. But I want to tell you something else. The words we say to others are powerful too. The speaker and I were discussing, he was talking about North Georgia. I was talking about the hills of Tennessee. That's where I'm from. It's just a unique area, just a little area in Tennessee, just a country rural area. Actually, where I came from, a tornado went through there and did $50,000 worth of improvements. I mean, just a But we were talking about growing up in that rural area. And we used to have a colloquialism. This was the colloquialism. "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me." I've got a Greek word for that, hogwash. Words do harm, because words are powerful. And the words we say to ourselves are powerful, and the words we say to other people are very, very powerful. I heard about a lady that was in her 70s, and she was driving down the road, and she was going rather fast, and a deputy sheriff pulled her over. He said, "Ma'am, you were going 70 in a 40. And he said, I need to see your license." She said, "I don't have any license." She said, "I've had so many DUIs, they've taken them." He said, "Okay." And he said, I need to see registration for the car." And she said, there is no registration. She said, "I stole this car." She said, "Actually, I killed a man and he's in the trunk." He said, "Wait just a minute." He took his phone. He said, "Sheriff, you need to come immediately. You need to come immediately. Please come immediately." And the sheriff gets there, and he tells the sheriff what's going on, and they open up the trunk of the car. And when they open up the trunk, it's completely empty. And the sheriff looks at the deputy. Then the sheriff says to that lady, Can I see your license?" She said, "Certainly, right here they are." And then he said, "Well, do you have proof of registration for this car?" And she said, "Well, sure I do. It's right here in the glove compartment." "Sheriff, I want you to see it." And he looked over at the deputy, and he said, "There's no dead body. She's got license. She's got vehicle registration." And she spoke up, and she said, "Yeah, and I bet you he told you I was going 70 in a 42. See, the words we say are so powerful. Listen, in concluding this morning, little girl stayed all night with my daughter who didn't get to go to church, and I said, "In conclusion," and that little girl said, "What does it mean when your daddy says that?" And Savannah Abigail said, "Absolutely nothing. But I promise you, in conclusion." God spoke 2 times from heaven directly to his son. Just 2 times. It was at his baptism and at the transfiguration. And this is what he said from heaven. He said it where people could hear him. "This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased." And I've always thought, well, if God, the one who didn't begin when the beginning began, but the one who began the beginning, the one who didn't start with start, but the one who started start, the one who was before there was a was, the one who's the creator, the ultimate one that one day we're going to stand before. If he said something to his son, I really need to take record of it. He said, "This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." He let him know 3 things. He let him know, number 1, you belong. I was raised by a stepfather who told me I was ignorant and illegitimate and would never amount to anything. Every time he introduced me, he would say, "This is my stepson. My stepson." But God said, "This is my son." He was saying, "You belong." You know what young people need to hear? They belong. You know what we all need to hear? We belong. This is my beloved son. Beloved. People need to hear they're beloved. They need to hear they belong, but they need to hear that they're loved. They need to hear they're loved. And I'll tell you something else. They need to hear that we're proud of them. Let me just say this, folks. It's wrong for me to be proud of me. Pride in my life is wrong. But it's not wrong for me to be proud of you. And if we'd let one another know that we're proud of each other, perhaps we wouldn't struggle with pride like we do. I didn't mean to say all that, but it felt pretty good. Words are powerful. The words we say to ourselves are powerful, and the words we say to other people are powerful. Somebody said a careless word may kindle strife. A cruel word may wreck a life. A bitter word may hate and steal. A brutal word may smite and kill. But a gracious word may smooth the way. A joyous word may lighten the day. A timely word might just lessen stress. A loving word might heal and bless. Let's just watch our words, because words are powerful. Let us pray. Lord, as I bow my head, it's a real honor today to be with Speaker Ralston. I've been with him now many, many years, and I thank you for his friendship. I thank you for this body. These are wonderful people. They mean much to me. Their service means much to me, that they would sacrifice for people just like me every day, come up here and give 40 days and a year, and then on top of that, so many days serving in their districts and taking calls and fielding responsibilities. Thank you for these people. Not only do I pray for every representative, but I pray for their families, because it's an equal, maybe even greater sacrifice on their families. And when I think about sacrifice, I pray for the people in the Ukraine. I really do, God. I pray that your protection. The Bible says the angel of the Lord encamps around about them that fear him. Would your angels just encamp around those precious people? And also, I'm conscientious that there are Russian people who they don't want this, God. They're in a difficult situation. Many of those people that are just common, everyday people, I ask you to comfort them and help them. God, thank you for this delegation. I pray that you would bless us and keep us. Make your face to shine upon us, be gracious unto us. Lift your countenance upon us, and may we experience your peace. For I pray this prayer in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Members may greet the chaplain in the South Anteroom. The chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, they say milk is good for your teeth. So is minding your own business.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, 159th moves following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions, the clerk will read.
House Bill 1475 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, bill be titled an act to create a board of elections and registration for Elbert County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1476 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, a bill being titled an act to amend an act to amend, consolidate, and supersede several acts incorporating the city of Colbert.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1477 by Representative Stevens, 164th bill being titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 16 of Title 45, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to general provisions relative to coroners.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1478 by Representative Ridley, the 6th, Powell of the 32nd, Corbett of the 174th, Perkle of the 155th, and Tarvin of the 2nd. Bill being titled Act to amend Code Section 4333, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to transfer of vehicle to or from a dealer.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 1479 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Watson of the 172nd, Houston of the 170th, Burns the 159th, Dickey the 140th. Bill being titled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 12, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to practice of
Natural
professional
Resources and Environment.
House Bill 1480 by Representative Gamble of the 15th, Scoggins the 14th, Byrd of the 20th, and Kelly the 16th. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 8 of Title 34, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to employment security benefits.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1481 by Representative Jaspers the 11th, a bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 4238, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to registration and licensing of manufacturers.
Motor Vehicles.
House Bill 1482 by Representative Irwin of the 28th, Corbett of the 174th, Yurt of the 152nd, Chokus of the 138th, Dubnik of the 29th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 262, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to low wealth capital outlay
Education.
grants. House Bill 1483 by Representative Barton of the 5th, Hatchett of the 150th, Cooper of the 43rd, Hutchinson the 107th, Dempsey the 13th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 10A of Title 43, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to licensing provisions regarding professional counselors.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1484 by Representative Hawkins the 27th, Bennett the 94th, Gravely the 67th, Cooper the 43rd, Green the 151st, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to medical assistance generally.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1485 by Representative Smith the 18th, Deloach the 167th, Green the 151st, Jenkins the 132nd, Evans the 57th. Bill being titled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2, Chapter 8, Title 12 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to the Georgia Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Act.
Natural Resources and
House
Environment.
Bill 1486 by Representative Laricchia, the 169th, Saints the 180th, Ridley the 6th, Hill of the 3rd, Yurt of the 152nd. Bill be titled an act to amend Code Section 4883, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 1487 by Representative Fry, the 118th, Evans the 83rd, Drenner of the 85th, Schofield of the 60th, Lewis Ward of the 109th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 46 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to public utilities, and public
Energy,
transportation.
Utilities, and Telecommunications.
House Resolution 878 by Representative Laricchia, the 169th, Perkle, the 155th, Burchetta, the 176th, LaHood of the 175th, Corbett of the 174th. Resolution honoring Private First Class Charles E. Day and Sergeant First Class Jerome Day and dedicating
Transportation.
House Resolution 879 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, a resolution urging the 117th Congress and the Georgia Congressional Delegation to support the United States.
Economic Development and Tourism.
House Resolution 880 by Representative Schofield, the 60th Smith of the 18th, Thomas the 65th, Kirby the 114th, and Scott of the 76th. Resolution encouraging the support of urban farming by local governments.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
House Resolution 881 by Representative Jackson of the 128th, Belton of the 112th, Williams of the 168th, Wade of the 9th, Irwin of the 28th, and others. Resolution encouraging each public school in the state to study the Civil Rights era.
Education.
House Resolution 894 by Representative Camp, 131st, and Lim of the 99th. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide the General Assembly shall be entitled to specific, appropriate all and unanticipated federal funding.
Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight.
House Resolution 895 by Representative Chokas, the 138th. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Electric Vehicle Charging Tariffs.
Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications.
Senate Bill 337 by Senator Walker, the 20th, Gooch, the 51st, Kirkpatrick, the 32nd, Anna Duarte, the 31st, and Hickman, the 4th. Bill being titled, an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 45, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to vacation of office.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 456 by Senator Thompson, the 14th, Kirkpatrick, the 32nd, Miller, the 49th, Gooch of the 51st, Hatcher, the 50th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Title 31 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to health.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 496 by Senator Burke of the 11th, Watson the 1st, Tillery the 19th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Huffstetler the 52nd, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 16, Title 45, the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to death investigations.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 500 by Senator Strickland the 17th, Walker the 20th, Kennedy the 18th, Cowser the 46th, Jones the 22nd, and others. Bill be entitled, an act to amend Title 10 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to commerce.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 511 by Senator Anderson the 24th, Dugan the 30th, Mullis the 53rd, Miller the 49th, Walker the 20th, and others. Bill be entitled, an act to amend Code Section 48.5, 311 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to the creation of county boards of equalization.
Ways and Means.
Senate Bill 514 by Senator Dixon the 45th, Miller the 49th, Gooch the 51st, Albers the 56th, Mullis the 53rd, and others. Bill being titled, an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the official code of Georgia and Tate relating to elementary and secondary education.
Education.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1462 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Burchett of the 176th, Rhodes of the 120th, LaHood of the 175th, Tarvin of the 2nd, and others. A bill relating to primaries and elections. House Bill 1464 by Representative Burchett of the 176th, LaHood of the 175th, Smith of the 70th, Rich of the 97th, Corbett of the 174th, and others. A bill relating to general provisions regarding the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. House Bill 1467 by Representative Saines of the 180th, Smith of the 134th, Bruce of the 61st, Taylor of the 173rd, Smyre of the 135th, and others. A bill relating to the Department of Administrative Services. House Bill 1473 by Representative Burchett of the 176th, LaHood of the 175th, Corbett of the 174th, Gamble of the 15th. The bill relating to operation of trains at crossings. House Bill 1474 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, Rich of the 97th, Wilkerson of the 38th, Cantrell of the 22nd, Wade of the 9th. The bill relating to competencies and core curriculum under the Quality Basic Education Act. House Resolution 867 by Representative Gunter of the 8th, the resolution honoring the life of Sheriff J. Vernon Chastain Sr., dedicating an intersection in his memory. House Resolution 868 by Representative Wynn of the 89th, Shannon of the 84th, Burnell of the 77th, Park of the 101st, Roberts of the 52nd, and others. Resolution proposing amendment to the Constitution so as to provide that all elections shall be fair and free. House Resolution 877 by Representative Maynard of the 56th, Setzler of the 35th, Jones of the 25th, Wilkerson of the 38th, Smith of the 41st. Resolution encouraging the Department of Education to dedicate personnel, funds, and other resources to statewide outreach efforts to promote and improve cybersecurity education training and workforce development. Senate Bill 259 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, Gooch of the 51st, Miller of the 49th, Harper of the 7th, the bill relating to dangerous instrumentalities and practices. Senate Bill 319 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st, Payne of the 54th, Thompson of the 14th, Robertson of the 29th, Hickman of the 4th, and others. A bill relating to general provisions regarding parks, historic areas, memorials, and recreation. Senate Bill 472 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th. A bill relating to organization and members of the Public Service Commission. Senate Bill 479 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th, Miller of the 49th, Duggan of the 30th, Gooch of the 51st, Mullis of the 53rd, and others. A bill relating to possession of firearms by convicted felons and first offender probationers. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Don Tarsons of the 44th District, Chairman on the Committee on Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications added a consideration the following bill of the House. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1372 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Parsons, the 44th District, Chairman. Representative Heath Clark of the 147th District, Chairman on the Committee on Defense and Veteran Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Defense and Veteran Affairs has added into consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1343 do pass by substitute. House Bill 1344 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Heath Clark of the 147th District, Chairman. Representative Darlene Taylor, 173rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Governmental Affairs has had a consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1381 do pass. House Bill 1382 do pass. House Bill 1385 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1405 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1406 do pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 346 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Darlene Taylor, 173rd District, Chairman. Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services has had on consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1013 do pass by substitute. House Bill 1279 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 256 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District, Chairman. Representative Martin of the 49th District, Chairman of the Committee on Higher Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following bills of the House. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1043 do pass. House Bill 1319 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Martin of the 49th District, Chairman. Representative Bill Werkeiser of the 157th District, Chairman on the Committee on Industry and Labor, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Industry and Labor has had under its consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 849 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1331 do pass. House Bill 1409 do pass. Senate Bill 331 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Bill Werkeiser of the 157th District, Chairman. Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District, Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals had under consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1430 do pass. House Bill 1465 do pass. House Bill 1471 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District, Chairman. Representative James Burchett of the 176th District, Chairman on the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil has had on its consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 906 to pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, James Burchett of the 176th District, Chairman. Representative Jay Collins of the 68th District, Chairman of the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security has had under consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1358 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1378 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1455 do pass. House Bill 830 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jay Collins of the 68th District, Chairman. Representative Houston Gaines of the 117th District, Chairman on Committee on Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment has had under its consideration the following bill of the Senate. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. Senate Bill 472 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Houston Gaines of the 117th District, Chairman. Representative Alan Powell of the 32nd District, Chairman of the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Regulated Industries has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with following recommendations. House Bill 1193, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1400, do pass. House Bill 884, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Alan Powell of the 32nd District, Chairman. Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Ways and Means has had under its consideration the following bills of the House. It instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1280, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1039, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District, Chairman. Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services had in consideration the following bills of the House. It instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 937, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1042, do pass. House Bill 1953, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
All right, we're going on now to the local calendar. Going on to the local calendar, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 1430 by Representative Williams, 148th, Crisp County. House Bill 1465 by Representative Campbell, 171st, Mitchell County. House Bill 1471 by Representative Irwin of the 28th, Stevens County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the ayes are 150, the nays are 9. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Tankersley rise?
I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move we immediately transmit the local calendar to the Senate.
Chairman Tankersley has moved that the bills just passed on the local calendar be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection? Is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. All right, we're going on now to morning orders. Going on to morning orders. Chair is going to limit morning orders to 1 minute each. Chair recognizes Chairman Chokus. Hold on just a minute. You know, some of these morning orders deserve a little respect and attention. And so I'm going to ask you, if you would, to give attention to the members in the well as you would want attention given to you. Chair recognizes Chairman Chokus for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I've placed on your desk yellow and blue ribbons to wear on your lapel. They represent the colors of the Ukrainian flag. As we have seen over the last week, the courageous people of the Ukraine have been defending their democratic country against the unprovoked, brutal, and savage attacks of Putin's Russian aggressors. Please stand with me as we honor the bravery of the Ukrainian people and the memory of the lives being lost in this war. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hagan for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Mallow and I wanted to bring to your attention that next Wednesday, March 9th, is Scout Day at the Capitol. And you should have received an email about this a week or two ago from Senator Strickland's office. If you didn't, please let me or Representative Mallow know. We will make sure we have that forwarded to you. But at 8:15, there will be a meet and greet with the Scouts here, and from 8 to 10, they're going to have breakfast for us to pick up. So my Scout will be here, and I just encourage you to come by and support these young people and the hard work that they do. And please, there's a link in that email that I referred to. It would help the Scouts out if you would RSVP to let them know that you're going to come by so that they can have enough food for us. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Burchett and Chairman Carpenter for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a great day in the state of Georgia, a beautiful day outside. It's been a great year. We had the Braves win the World Series, the Dogs win the national championship, and then for the first time, the House defeated the Senate in the annual kickball tournament yesterday. Thank you. 8-5. At one point, it was 6-2. So thank you for all your participation. We look forward to this next year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And if you see us limping around, please don't make fun of us.
We're just happy you're not in the hospital today. Chair recognizes Representative Holly for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello, colleagues. As you know, tomorrow is Georgia STEM Day, commemorating our local schools' focus on science, technology, engineering, math, and educating the young minds of tomorrow. I want to highlight the work of Henry County Schools. Will soon be groundbreaking a new initiative in a STEM program in Stockbridge community. And a very special thanks to the Southern Crescent Women in Business, hosting a one-day seminar for tomorrow, working in cooperation with Metamorphosis Powerhouse Company, as well as Henry County Schools and our beloved Technology Association of Georgia. So thank you, colleagues. Let's remember, let's do as God would expect us and be able to cherish our children, whether rural, whether urban, the way with very strong funding and positive advocacy. Thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Dukes for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and members of this body. When you have an opportunity, I would like for, if you are inclined to come by and sign a piece of legislation for calling for a study committee. It's for the expansion and national competitiveness in Georgia agriculture. You know, we're number one in peanuts, a lot of things, but what I would like for us to do is to see if we can expand that to a greater state. Right now, we're 2% of the agriculture sales in the United States. I think we can do better than we should. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, we are about to go on to the rules calendar. We do have a motion to take up beforehand. For what purpose does Chair recognizes Chairman Carson for a motion?
Mr. Speaker, I move this House agree to the Senate substitute for House Bill 517 as amended.
Chairman Carson has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 517 as amended. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 517 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 2A of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to student scholarship organization sales to provide for the inclusion of earned interest in the calculation of minimum revenue obligations for scholarship and tuition grants.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carson to explain the Senate substitute and the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask for your favorable consideration for House Bill 517. This is a bill that we passed in February, I believe, of last year. It basically incorporated about 12 new transparency and disclosure requirements as a result of the Department of Audit and Accounts doing a review of the SSO program. So we've incorporated those items. This House passed that measure back in February of last year, and we sent it to the Senate. The Senate has asked for inclusion of the allowance for credits to be used against insurance premium tax. So we are doing that in this bill as amended. What this does is going to increase school choice in Georgia. This increases the tax credit scholarship by $20 million per year, starting at $120 million next year. And from that, 5% will be reserved solely for Title 33 or insurance premium taxes. With that, Mr. Speaker, I do hope everyone can support this. This is a very popular program to support school choice in Georgia. This is very popular, not just with majority party voters, but minority party voters as well in a general election. And this program continues to be fully subscribed just about every year the past 10 years, except for about $1.5 million last in 2020 due to COVID. I do hope this body can support school choice and give parents the choices they wish with their child's education future. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the will.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? Is there any objection? Chair hears none, and the amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 517 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative McLaurin rise? State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that when I was going door to door cutting my teeth on politics in 2018, one of the Republican voters I talked to said she was a single issue voter in North Fulton, and the only issue she cared about was investigating abuse and fraud in this program and asking me to promise her that I would look into the way that these funds are misused. Is that not true, Mr. Speaker?
If the gentleman so states, I wasn't helping you go door to door, so have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 94, the nays are 66. This bill, or the motion, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Carson rise?
To make a motion.
State your motion.
I move for immediate transmittal of House Bill 517 to the Georgia Senate.
Chairman Carson has moved for immediate transmittal of House Bill 517 to the Senate. Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of immediate transmittal will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion for immediate transmittal, the ayes are 94, the nays are 63, and the bill is being immediately transmitted to the Senate. All right, we're going on now to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1058.
House Bill 1058 by Representative Williamson of the 115th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48721 of the relating to the income taxation of corporations so as to remove the requirement that affiliated corporations file separate income tax returns. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Williamson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I present to you House Bill 1058 by committee substitute LC 500350 ERS. This bill simply allows holding companies to file a consolidated state income tax return by their election. Previously, they had to get approval of the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue is fine with this bill. There's been no objections. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1058. The ayes are 163. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1348.
House Bill 1348 by Representative Rich of the 97th to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia and Tate relating to offenses against public health and morals so as to provide that vaping in restricted areas is a misdemeanor punishable by fine. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Bonnie Rich to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring to you today House Bill 1348. This is a bill that was requested by the Georgia Department of Public Health. It will update the Smoke-Free Air Act to bring parity to the law so that we treat vaping and traditional smoking the same. This issue was actually brought to my attention and to the attention of the Department of Health by our local director for Gwinnett Newton Rockdale. The current Smoke-Free Act was adopted in 2005 before vaping became widely popular. 2019 data from the Department of Health indicates that only 16.3% of people smoke, but more than 21% of high school students either smoke or vape. Clearly, the previously unregulated electronic cigarette industry has surpassed smoking as a more prevalent threat to our community. Unfortunately, the current laws that prohibit smoking in enclosed places like restaurants, daycare centers, government buildings, and schools do not apply to vaping. Electronic smoking devices, called collectively ESDs, they don't emit harmless water vapor, despite the fact that the industry has given it the misname or the misnomer vape. Electronic smoking devices and so-called vapes, in fact, emit aerosol, not harmless water vapor. Nanoparticles in this ESD aerosol contain nicotine and toxins, including formaldehyde and lead. These nanoparticles are much smaller than the particles in tobacco smoke and present in much higher concentrations. Making this even more dangerous, nanoparticles are more easily and deeply breathed into the lungs of the user and the bystander. Toxic chemicals attached to nanoparticles may therefore have even greater adverse health effects than when these toxins are attached to larger tobacco smoke particles. ESD particles can exacerbate respiratory conditions like asthma. They can constrict arteries. This aerosol can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease and contain cancer-causing chemicals. Too many C's there. That is quite the alliteration. That's why the Georgia Center for Oncology Research and Education is also in support of this bill, as well as the American College of Physicians, Georgia chapter, the Academy of Family Physicians, Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, Georgia, the Georgia Society of Clinical Oncologists, Voices for Georgia's Children, and the American Academy of Pediatrics. So this measure will bring Georgia in line with 21 other states, including our neighbors, Florida and Alabama, that prohibit e-cigarettes in locations where traditional smoking is prohibited, and will greatly protect the health of the public and our young people. At this time, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for a question.
Do you yield? You do have a question.
Yes, I do.
Chair recognizes Representative Saines to your right for a question.
Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Is it not true that vape is one of the leading substances based on the Georgia Student Health Survey in rising from middle and high school students in our state?
Yes, it is. You're exactly right.
And is it not further true that there's growing concern that increased use will lead to an increase in tobacco use?
Yes, there is evidence that is actually in fact happening. Thank you for the questions. Mr. Speaker?
No further questions.
Then I yield the well. Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1348. The ayes are 149, the nays are 12. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 508.
House Bill 508 by Representative Carpenter IV to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 and Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia, Annotated, relating to selling and other trade practices so as to provide protection for commercial recordings, musical performances, and audiovisual works. This bill having referred to the Committee on Creative Arts and Entertainment, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carpenter to present the bill.
Thank you, Speaker, members of the House. House Bill 508 is a simple bill brought to me by the music industry, and it basically addresses two issues. The first issue is about representing yourself as an artist when you don't have the right to do that, and this just clarifies in Georgia code what you have to do to be able to say you're a particular group, say the Four Tops or the Beatles or somebody else. You either have to be an original member or you have to have that right. And then the other piece of the bill deals with online streaming services, making sure that they list and advertise how to get in touch with them to make sure that they are collecting and paying royalties to the artist. So this is a simple bill that protects Georgia artists, and I appreciate your favorable consideration. And I'll yield for any questions.
You got a few questions if you care to yield?
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Chair recognizes the Dean of the House, Dean Smyrie, to your left for a question.
Gentleman, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
Tell us again, because this is a good bill and I'm interested in it, but the aspect that deals with the royalties and make it rightfully so that people who made songs over the years would still benefit from their creative act over the years.
That's correct. So a lot of the big guys like Pandora and Spotify, they're paying royalties to these artists. But there's a lot of new up-and-coming services, I call them pirate streaming services, that are not doing that. So this would just require them in the state of Georgia to list contact information so that the BMIs of the world can go after it and make sure they're paying their rightful share to the creative folks. I yield for one more, Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Glanton to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that DJs are not caught up in this?
That's correct. It strictly, it only applies to someone that represents themselves as the Beatles or as the Four Tops. They can still people continue to play as a tribute band, if you will, but it just says if I'm going to advertise in the state of Georgia that the Four Tops is playing over here at the Fox, then it has to either be a member of the Four Tops or they have to have the legal ability to do so under copyright law.
Follow-up question, please.
Yes, sir.
So this wouldn't have anything to do with a DJ that's doing mixtapes?
That's correct. You're good. Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
And on Sir Mix-a-Lot, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Representative Erica Thomas rise?
Parliamentary
State your
inquiry.
inquiry.
Is it not true that this bill is a simple bill that helps to protect artists and also helps people to be able to get their royalties, and that streaming services like Pandora and Spotify are already doing this, but we are just protecting artists from jojosradio.com type of people?
I think the lady is accurate. What purpose does Representative Beth Moore rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that for myself as an attorney who represents artists and musicians every day that I am fully in support of this bill?
If the lady so states. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 508. The ayes are 164. The nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1355.
House Bill 1355 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 41 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to lead poisoning prevention so as to update provisions to comport with nationally recognized guidelines. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. I want to tell you, first of all, how great y'all all look, the ones that have lost their masks, because I'm going to tell you, I have missed your smiles. So it's good to see everybody, first of all. House Bill 1355, I want to draw attention to two handouts that are on your desk today that are really important, especially this map. Look and see where you are and where perhaps there may be a lead challenge. HB 1355 comes to us from the work of a House Study Committee on Childhood Lead Exposure that convened during the summer and fall. Representative Drenner, Gamble, Maynard, Chairman Newton, and Dr. Chris Rustin with the Department of Public Health served on this committee, and we found out some really startling things, I would say, about how pervasive lead is in our homes and in our communities. And the main thing I want you all to realize is that the effects in children can be completely impossible to reverse. Permanent brain damage, behavior disorders, lifelong challenges that we of course see in other places in their life as they travel. So protecting children from lead and that exposure is important to their healthy development. The CDC says there is absolutely no safe blood level in children, and even small amounts affect the IQ and attention span and academic achievement, as well as the developmental disabilities that can come from that. The most at risk are children under 6 years of age and children living at or below the federal poverty level, especially those who live in older housing. Very near to where we are today, on the other side of Mercedes-Benz, while we were meeting, it was designated as a lead super site, a federal super site. Very important that we look at this and deal with it. The main thing that the bill does is to lower, but bring us into compliance with the federal standards of how much lead can actually be in a child's blood for it to have this impact. It also brings into a much more reasonable time frame the reporting and remediation. There's a lot more that we can do on this, and I hope that we will in the years ahead, but right now this is a great way to start to protect our children and families from permanent damage due to lead exposure. Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well, or if there are any questions, I will be glad to take them.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable support.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Maynard rise?
Parliamentarian
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the community that I represent is listed as an EPA Superfund site, so has the most lead exposure in the entire state of Georgia and sometimes nationally?
If the lady so states. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1355. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1349.
House Bill 1349 by Representative Ridley VI and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 2713 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to legislative declarations, ownership and custody of wildlife, preservation of hunting and fishing opportunities, and promotion and right to hunt, trap, or fish. This bill having referred to the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Ridley to present the bill.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I know y'all have may got an email or two about this bill. I think everybody's boxes are full, but I think that shows the passion that our hunters have here in Georgia and how important this is to them and for us as a state. This is House Bill 1349, and I know this bill don't do hardly anything at all except the main thing it does is change the date on line 15 to 2022. The reason you're getting all these emails and what this bill really does is in 2005 we took in about 200 to 300,000 acres that we have protected in the state of Georgia for hunting, fishing, and for outdoor activity. We've not done this bill since then. Since that time we took in another 200,000. And what this does is this protects that land, keeps it for hunters and fishermen, keeps it out of developments in our state, and lets people come from the outdoors from all over the country and enjoy their state. And that's what the bill does. Mr. Speaker, I'll take any questions if I have any.
You have no questions.
Thanks, sir. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Chairman Tarvin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that these lands are used for caving, hiking, and cycling by our citizens all over the state?
I believe the gentleman is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1349. The ayes are 162, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1324.
House Bill 1324 by Representative Campbell, 131st, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 31 and Title 33 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to emergency medical services and insurance, respectively, so as to clarify the prudent layperson standard. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Camp to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. House Bill 1324 is an interesting measure. It passed something similar to this passed in the Senate last year, and we've improved it a little bit by changing the verbiage not just to include medical but physical and mental. If you go to the hospital or you feel like you might need to go to the hospital, being a prudent layperson, being an average person with the average medical knowledge, which is pretty basic, and you feel like you need to go to the emergency room, at that point, you go and you find out maybe the diagnosis is not a true emergency. You have gallstones, you're not having a heart attack. In some instances, insurance companies were not paying because the final diagnosis was not deemed an emergency. This bill resolves that by stating clearly if a prudent lay person believes someone's having an emergency, the insurance will pay regardless of the final diagnosis. Mr. Speaker, I'm open to any questions.
You have no questions?
All right,
I'm
thank you, Mr.
sorry, you do have a question. Do you yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Chair recognizes Representative Park to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Is it not true that Senator Michelle Au passed this bill out of the state Senate with bipartisan support?
Yes, she did, and thank you for bringing that up. As I mentioned, it was SB 82. It passed the Senate in 2021, and we did make a few changes to the original bill, but yes, it did pass from the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1324, the ayes are 165, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 916.
House Bill 916 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd and others to be entitled an act to amend Title V of the Official Code of Georgia and Tate relating to appeal and error so as to provide for a unified procedure for appealing decisions of a lower judicatory to a superior or state court. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Leverett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, it's my pleasure today to present to you for your consideration House Bill 916, which is the Superior and State Court Appellate Practice Act. This is a bill that I've been working on the last month or two, but the Judicial Council has been assiduously working on this bill for about the last 5 years. And I believe it presents you today, this vote presents you with an historic opportunity because, one, you are going to be able, in voting yes for this bill, to comply with the exhortation of the prophet Amos, who in 5:15 said, "Hate evil, love good, and maintain justice in the courts." This bill will help do that. Secondly, it will give you an opportunity to simplify the process of appealing from a lower court to a state or superior court. And that is particularly unusual, I think, that I would have a bill up here that's been drafted by lawyers that's going to simplify something. So it will comply with that biblical precept of Amos and will also help simplify the process of appealing from lower courts to superior and state courts. And I believe the language of the bill itself states it better than I could in the findings that are made in the very beginning of the bill on lines 33. The General Assembly finds that many appeals from a lower judicatory to a superior state court result in dismissal on complex procedural grounds and not a decision on the merits. It's the intent of the General Assembly to establish a single, modern, and uniform procedure called a petition for review for appealing a decision by a lower court to a superior state court, and to increase access to justice through the greater resolution of appeals on the basis of substantive issues rather than complex procedural grounds. Right now, appeals from magistrate courts and probate courts and zoning boards and things like that are governed by a sort of patchwork of different statutes that govern methods of appealing. They apply different procedures, apply in different circumstances. It's not always clear which procedure you use, and one of those procedures, called a petition for certiorari, dates back to the mid-1800s, and it is very complex, arcane, and unclear, and frankly, in the modern age, nonsensical. So this would do away with that particular process and replace all of that with one process called a petition for review. The code, this bill would set out the form of that petition, where it's to be filed, how it's to be filed, what it has to say. Admittedly, it does go on for a bit of a length, but that's to answer all those questions we lawyers like to ask. So this would allow people appealing from those lower bodies to have their cases heard on the merits, whereas right now it's very, very difficult to do so because the process is so complicated. A lot of people get tripped up by procedural technicalities. It's much like the scene in Patton when he's taken over from General Frederahl at after the Kasserine Pass, the beginning of the movie, and he walks in and trips on a soldier, and he says, "What are you doing, soldier?" And he says, "I'm trying to sleep." He goes, "Well, get back down there. The only son of a gun in this outfit knows what the heck he's doing." This will at least make us all more able to know what the heck we're doing when we're appealing from lower courts to superior and state courts. So I would ask you to vote for this bill. It allows cases to be heard on the merits, which I think furthers the public faith and belief in the integrity of the court system, and they're relying on it. So having said that, I would ask your favorable consideration for House Bill 916. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for questions.
I'm sure I speak for every member of this House when I say, Representative, that was a riveting presentation.
I noticed that I had everyone's rapt attention, Mr. Speaker.
I wish it had never ended. And I thought for a minute it never would. And as a result, you have a few questions.
I'll yield for questions.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Rules Committee, Chairman Smith, to your left.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
In relation to what the speaker just said, could you repeat that?
I can repeat it, Mr. Chairman, if you really want me to.
No, I don't want
I didn't
you to.
think so.
Do you further yield?
I'll yield for one more.
Let's see here. The majority leader has a question. Chair recognizes Leader Burns to your right for a question.
Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir, I'll yield.
Not nearly as eloquent as all those folks you quoted, but I think they said curiosity killed the cat. So my question is, were you paid by the word for that presentation you just made, or was that just something in public service?
No, sir. It's a pearl example of the injustice that exists in the world, Mr. Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield and ask your favorable consideration of House Bill 916.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Chairman Dubnik rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
I'll try to answer that, but the question is, will you understand the answer?
Mr. Speaker, is it not?
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that if the great legislator Tom McCall was here, he would have more than likely referenced that the gentleman quoted General Patton, referenced biblical principles, said that he was here to simplify things, but isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that Chairman McCall's response would be, now that you've given us the lawyer-long version, could you tell us simple folks what this bill is trying to do?
Yeah, but us lawyers don't know how to do that, or choose not to do it. Do you? Let's take one more. What purpose does Representative Roberts rise?
Parliamentary
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that I am a zoning attorney, and I am going to defend Chairman Leverett that this bill actually allows citizens to file their appeals and not have due process denied because of these little technical things like getting a cost certificate signed and a bond signed?
I'm sure the lady knows about which she speaks, and Representative Roberts, I have to tell you that when you defended Representative Leverett, he had a large smile on his face of comfort.
I'm so glad.
All right. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 916. The ayes are 167. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does Chairman Martin rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, after the gentleman took a minute before, I would move at this time to recommit H.R. 732 to the Rules Committee.
Chairman Martin has moved that House Resolution 732 be recommitted to the Rules Committee. Clerk will read the caption. I'm sorry, I read the wrong one. What number was it?
House Resolution 732 by Chairman Martin of the 49th, proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to change the date by which temporary loans for counties, municipalities, and other political subdivisions are payable.
On the gentleman's motion that House Resolution 732 be recommitted to the Rules Committee, is there objection? Chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Chair recognizes Representative Momdahan for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like this House to agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 328 as amended by the House.
Representative Momdahan has moved that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 328 as amended by this House. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 328 to be entitled an Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 46 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to telephone service general provisions so as to establish a one-time right-of-way permit fee and reduce annual right-of-way use fees.
Chair recognizes Representative Momdahan to explain the Senate amendment and the House amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate amendment was a compromise with our friends at the GMA and some other groups to make sure that the fee rates are working. We agreed to that. And then the further amendment is to make sure that since we made that amendment, the date there has already passed. So we need to make sure that the date is right and is in the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? The chair hears none. The House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 328 as amended by this House, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Holland rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Rule 133, I ask to be excused from this vote.
Lady has that right, and it will be so noted in the journal. What purpose does Representative Beth Moore rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the sponsor of this bill and I engaged in spirited debate on this bill in committee, resulting in a subcommittee to study it, ultimately resulting in a compromise bill that all parties are agreeable to?
If the lady so states. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill, or on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 111, the nays are 54, and this House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 328 as amended by the House. Chair recognizes Chairman F. Strachan for an announcement.
The House Judiciary Committee meeting has been canceled for today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative McLean for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Working Family Caucus will meet at 12 o'clock. You can stop in room 307 and pick up your lunch. And we will start Zoom, and today is workforce development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Everybody hang on a minute now. Chair recognizes Chairman Smith, Chair of the Rules Committee, for an announcement.
Rules will meet in 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Rules Committee meeting in room 341 in 10 minutes. This House will be in recess until 1:15.